Welcome back to Success with Steven. My name is Steven Smith. On this channel, we discuss all things financial literacy. Last year, I had a one-on-one coaching where someone asked me if they wanted to get a 700 credit score in 1 week, how would they do it? And today, I want to update that conversation for 2026. We'll be discussing how you can actually get an 800 credit score with bad credit and how you can do this in, let's say, a week. Now, I want to preface this by saying the same thing I said before. That is tough and improbable, but technically it's not impossible. So we're going to rehash this 7-day plan that you can implement to take your credit score from, let's say, a poor rating of around 500 to 800 in just 1 week. I know the feeling of being denied when applying for an auto loan, a personal loan, or even something as simple as a brand new credit card. It feels like a door is slammed in your face, all because you have a low credit score. But what I've learned after cleaning up my own credit and dealing with this for so long is that you can rebuild it if you take the time and you know a few good steps in order to get started. And if I can do this, I know anyone else can do it as well. So let's talk about this 1 week plan. Let's start with day one. This is going to be on Sunday. Now, the very first step in this process is understanding where you currently stand. You don't know what's wrong with your credit unless you can actually see your credit report, right? Your credit report is essentially your financial reputation, but on paper. It contains payment history, outstanding balances, account statuses, and other factors that lender will use to evaluate your trustworthiness. Even something as small as an incorrect balance can chip away at your credit score. So you want to start by visiting rising.com. Rising can help you build or rebuild your credit by giving you access to your credit reports and your scores. It also shows what may be hurting your credit, helping you create dispute letters, tracking your progress, and reporting things like rent and utility payments to the bureaus. And that's important because rebuilding your credit is not just about removing bad items, it's also about adding positive history and following a real plan, and this platform helps you do that all in one place. That's a huge advantage when you're actively working on improving your credit, and we'll talk about that later in the video. Now, you can start a trial today for $1. Once you have your reports in front of you, it's time to identify the items that are hurting your credit score. That can be late payments, collections, charge-offs, bankruptcies, things like that can drag your score down. Surprisingly, credit report errors are more common than you think. There was a 2024 study by Consumer Reports that revealed that almost half of the people who checked their credit report found at least one mistake, and 27% found errors that could negatively impact their credit scores. Another study by the American Bankruptcy Institution, ABI, would suggest that as many as 42 million Americans may have errors on their report, which is about 13% of the entire population. Start by verifying your personal information, your name, your address, your phone number, anything like that that needs to be updated or corrected. If you have multiple addresses and employers and phone numbers, it might seem harmless, but this can actually make you look unstable to lenders. Then there are account statuses. You want to look out for accounts marked as open, but they're actually closed, maybe payments that show up as late, even though you paid them on time, and debts that appear more than once under different account names. Next, examine your balances and your credit limits because these numbers directly affect your credit utilization, which does play a major role in your score. An incorrect limit or outdated balance can unfairly bring your credit score down. The last thing you need to do is make sure you have an active account with all 3 major credit bureaus. That's going to be Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. You want to make sure that all 3 accounts have been set up, and these are completely free. You don't have to pay for them, but go to each and every one of their websites and create a free account. These accounts allow you to freeze and unfreeze your credit as well as many other options. And this will be important in the days ahead. On Monday, we'll begin by disputing all the inaccuracies and derogatory information that we found. Now, under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the FCRA, you have the legal right to dispute inaccurate or incomplete information, and you can file a dispute with the credit bureaus by providing identification documents and submitting various ways, like through the mail or through the CFPB. Once your dispute is submitted, the bureaus have 30 days to investigate. If they can't verify the information, it must be removed. And that one change can make the difference between a high interest rate or having an affordable monthly payment. I know we're trying to get a lot done within 1 week, and I have several videos in my credit repair playlist, and I have seen results as fast as 7 days. So again, that credit repair playlist will be down in the description. I highly recommend that you check that out. I should also have some updated videos for 2026. Persistence is going to be key here. Credit bureaus often deny disputes or updated requests for so many reasons, but don't let that stop you. You want to keep a record of every email, every letter, every phone call. You can track which items that you've disputed and then follow up. You can also do this through rising.com. When I started out, this process felt like it was never ending, but if you stay organized, you can see steady results. On Tuesday, we're going to focus on reducing your credit utilization. Now, if there is one thing you could do to boost your credit score fast, it's going to be lowering credit utilization. Now, this ratio will measure how much of your total available credit you actually use. Higher utilization will lead banks to believe that you may be over-leveraged if you rely too much on credit, and that will make you look risky. Let's say you have $10,000 in available credit and you're using $3,000 of that $10,000. That is a 30% utilization ratio. The goal is to keep it under 30%, but for the best results, aim for below 10%. That's going to be the best place to maximize the factors of your credit score. Now, here's how you lower your utilization. The first thing you want to do is pay down your balances as much as possible. You can either use the snowball method of paying down small balances first, or there's also this thing called the avalanche method where you target the highest interest debts. You can pick whichever one that you prefer. Next, we want to make sure that your payments are strategic. Now, most people pay on the due date, which does help avoid late fees and interest, but it doesn't do much for your credit score. Now, after you pay your balance in full on your due date, which is your previous statement balance, I'm not talking about the entire amount on the account, just your previous statement balance, you want to leave a small balance left before your statement cycle date closes. Now, this small balance will be due the next month, so don't worry about being late. This balance is reported to the credit bureaus, and if you can't pay off your full balance before the statement date closes, then try making multiple payments throughout the month, either weekly or bi-weekly payments to keep your balance low and easier for you to manage. You can also request a credit limit increase. So, for example, if you have a $3,000 balance and a $10,000 credit card, utilization is 30%. But if your limit is bumped up to, let's say, $15,000, that same $3,000 becomes just 20%. Some issuers use soft inquiries for credit limit increases, but others will use hard pulls, so just be careful about that before you make that request. You can also consider consolidating your debt with a personal loan. Credit card debt is revolving, which counts against utilization. A personal loan is installment debt, which is treated differently. You'll often get a lower interest rate on a personal loan as well. Lastly, if you use business credit cards, you can also consider doing a balance transfer. Normally, business credit cards don't show up on your personal credit, and if you move the balance over, you can reap the benefits of having a higher credit score while also paying off your debt on that card, but it's not going to hurt your score in the process. Sometimes they even have 0% APR cards that can actually save you money, especially if you're carrying big balances. Recently, I covered this in a video called "This One Step Can Boost Your Credit Score 100 Points." I'm going to link that video right here. I highly recommend that you watch that if you want to see a more in-depth explanation of using this strategy. Now, on Wednesday, we'll take a look at credit builder accounts and secured loans. Now, these are two powerful tools that can help you increase your credit score relatively quick. For example, those Rising account credit builders state directly on the website that Rising members can see credit score improvements of 60 points. By creating a consistent positive payment history and also improving the mix of credit types on your credit report, this is definitely possible. And some people also use products like Credit Strong or let's say the Navy Federal Pledge Loan. Just know that there are many options at your disposal. If you're just starting out with no credit or you're trying to bounce back from past mistakes, then these tools can provide a structured, low-risk way to show lenders that you can be trusted with credit. However, you don't want to solely rely on credit builders. You still need primary accounts from traditional banks and credit unions. There are over 16 credit scoring models to date. And depending on the scoring model that's being used, commercial accounts like credit builders could be seen as negative. So I always recommend keeping a balance when it comes to this. Again, everything's a tool. It serves a purpose for when you need it. Moving on to day number 5. Sometimes you might need a little extra push, and this is where authorized user accounts can come in handy. Being added to someone else's well-managed credit card account can ingest years of good history into your credit profile. If someone you trust, like a relative, a spouse, or a close friend, has a credit card account with, let's say, a high limit, good history of on-time payments, then you might want to consider asking them to be added on as an authorized user. Now, if that isn't an option for you, you can also use authorized user services. However, I always recommend that you ask a family member or a friend first, because the account holder doesn't have to let you use the card or even give you the account number for your credit to improve. You do want to make sure that the accounts will report to all 3 major credit bureaus: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. That way you get the best effect. Most credit cards do, but some issuers sometimes have a problem. So let your family member or your friend know when they add you on as an authorized user. Their payment history, their credit limit, their utilization ratio, all of that will appear on your credit report, and you don't need to use the card or even have access to it for you to benefit from it. Now, I do have 2 videos on Coast Trade Lines and Trade Line Supply Co. You guys can check out both of those if you want to purchase an authorized user trade line. However, be careful with that strategy. It is temporary. And trade lines are most effective with your credit when it's someone you already know has a clean credit report, and you don't want anyone who may have accounts that are packed with delinquencies like late payments or anything like that. But when your profile really does need a boost, this can make a huge difference. I also have this video that I just did about credit score secrets that no one talks about. I'll link that video here as well. I highly recommend that you watch that to get some more details. Now, on day number 6, I highly recommend that you consider adding rent payments to your credit report. Now, this is still, like, while it's on that credit builder vein, I think it's one of the most overlooked things that people don't talk about, especially when it comes to this or utility payment. Most landlords don't report your on-time rent payments to the credit bureaus, but they actually can with services like rising.com, and it will go back up to 24 months. And since rent usually is your biggest expense, having that show up as a consistent on-time installment can give your credit file the boost of a long-standing, well-managed account. And 35% of your overall FICO score is on-time payments, making this the largest factor impacting your credit score to date. Adding this type of account alone could dramatically improve your credit score. Now, on day 7, it's time to review all of the changes that we made. Each day we implemented something that would make up every factor of your credit score. For example, payment history with rent reporting with something like Rising, it will impact the largest factor of your credit score. That is going to be 35% when it comes to payment history. If you were able to add 24 months of history, that's going to be an aged account that will definitely boost your credit score. This also will work with authorized users, so if you can add both, then that would be great. We should have also reduced our utilization, which is 30% of your overall credit score, using various methods that we discussed. We also mentioned how we'd increase the length of your credit history. Once again, rent reporting, credit builders, authorized users, that's 15% of your overall credit score. This would also hit new credit, which is 10% of your overall credit score. And after our first week, this will be a good time for you to follow up on any disputes. Now, one thing that I did add is your Vantage Score 4.0. This score is becoming more widely used. I have a video that talks about this new credit score that's changing everything. I'll link that video right here if you want a breakdown of the FICO score versus the Vantage score and exactly how that's going to work. But for today's video, we're focusing on the FICO score, and this is going to be your 7-day action plan. Now, this process can take time, but every single step that you take will bring you closer to better credit, more financial freedom, and lower interest rates. So just make sure that you stick to it. All right, I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. Also, all of the videos that I referenced should be in the credit repair playlist if I was not able to link them on the video. I think I have a limit of 5, so at some point, if I talked about more than 5 videos, you probably did not see a clickable link. So again, check out that playlist. All the videos are there, and you can definitely go back. There's some more in-depth details that you can look at. Also, let me know in the comments below which of these tips was the most impactful to your credit score. If you did this last year or you did this recently, please, I want to know. That's also going to help anyone that's watching this video now, so they'll be able to know what's the most impactful thing for them to do at this time. Once again, I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video, and you have a wonderful day.